Welcome to today's edition of the CIO Watercooler TV. My name's David Savage. Today I am joined by Paul Dove. Paul, you are from SCC. Do you want to quickly tell us what you do for SCC?
Yeah, of course, David. So good morning. Firstly, thanks for inviting me. So I run the business development and pre-sales department for SCC for our services team. So I run a team of pre-sales service architects. They work with our sales teams and more importantly with our customers, our prospects, covering all of the services we provide. And those services include professional services consulting, our end user support, so the provision of equipment right the way through that whole life cycle, build, deploy, in-life support of that equipment, right the way through to refurbishment and remarketing of that. And then I've got a team focused on our distributed cloud proposition. So they look after all of our service offerings around the data center, private cloud and public cloud.
So look, this last year has obviously been challenging for everybody. I don't think we need to say more than that. But how has it been for SCC?
Well, yeah, like you say, it wasn't exactly the year we planned. We had plans moving into the year which we delivered against, which was good. We finished our financial year at the end of at the end of March in April, and we came through pretty well. In many ways challenging, but in many ways hugely rewarding. I think, we saw huge demand from customers for end user compute devices, doing what we've all been doing, working from home. That drove, device connectivity, bandwidth. So that was a really big right at the beginning of COVID. But I'm really proud how we've supported our customers through the pandemic. We've done some really rapid deployments into organisations, including areas of the NHS. We put thermal imaging cameras into one NHS trust. We launched our OWorks public cloud team last year. Launching a brand new proposition in a COVID year. Obviously, we didn't plan that, but those guys worked with Cambridge University Hospital, and they developed a website which was primarily aimed at the whole donning and doffing of PPE. So, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic when none of those things were sort of taken for granted. And, in the commercial sector, a load of our customers had real challenges. They work across a very diverse area, service organizations, haulage, retail, and a lot of those customers saw really dramatic changes in their businesses. And I think we tried to reflect our services capability and how we work with the customers through the pandemic.
Look, you're alluding to there the fact that your customers have changed, and that's going to put pressure on any organisation that's supplying into them to adapt to their needs and quite rapidly at the same time. So what's that meant in terms of having to modify your own service delivery?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think we have and had services which we had designed and launched, I suppose, for differing work styles. What we found in the pandemic was, of course, actually everybody had a very different work style. Everybody became a distributed user. So our next generation distributed services, which we designed for people that were sometimes out of the office, we had to adapt, I suppose, and apply to all users for many of our customers, because that's what we were seeing, and I think we'll continue to see in the near future. Those users are going to continue to be remote, right? Or at best, maybe roaming, spending sometimes in the office and sometimes at home. And the technologies we leverage there, cloud to provide secure hosted desktop solutions, cloud storage, so there's no data on those devices. And that means that those devices can be pretty easily swapped. So in a remote scenario, if you've got a user working from home, we can take them a new device, take the old device away and remotely build their profile back onto that device. And they've got access back to those applications pretty naturally. in a campus environment, we designed, and I think we will see an uptake of sort of low touch interaction with our customers as we emerge from COVID and we go back to office working. And we've got solutions there which include, the integration of smart lockers. So, pre-configured devices that are sat securely on the customer site, and that through an app, they can log a ticket, gain access to that locker and exchange their own device and have it rebuilt. So I think we've adapted pretty well in that sort of in that scenario. We've got some pretty smart solutions, really.
So look, obviously this year is all about being customer centric. What are customers actually asking for? Has that changed over the course of the pandemic, or is it fundamentally the same but just being delivered in a slightly different way?
I think it has changed. So our business is very diverse. We saw, as I mentioned earlier, far more focus on end user device maybe than the enterprise platform, or replacement of enterprise platforms. Customers spent their money, and they had to spend money, right? They spent their money on those home worker solutions. I think, we saw massive uptake of collaboration tools like the one we're using today, in Teams and cloud delivered services. And Teams presents a great opportunity for our customers and for us, because it was so rapidly deployed and implemented. There's now that second wave of how do you really maximize what you're doing with some of the tool sets that you deployed during the early stages of the pandemic. So Teams calling, did people ever integrate the calling features? Have they built that into Teams rooms and the AV solutions that they've got? And I think the answer is generally no, and that presents a great opportunity for them to improve the way they deliver that. Public cloud, hugely grown over the last year. As I said earlier, we launched OWorks, and there are several facets to kind of what OWorks does, from recognizing if there is a desire to move to the public cloud, how you do that, the readiness assessments and understanding that, the migration planning that's essential to doing it, so you actually see some benefit from migrating to the public cloud. And OWorks, we've designed and implemented a hub, so a secure single sign-on that gives access for our customers to all of their subscriptions. So whether that be with AWS or Microsoft Azure or GCP, those subscriptions can be accessed through one single sign-on. You've got that whole visibility of your estate, how it's performing commercially, what it's going to cost you, and the vulnerabilities in there. So it's looking at security vulnerabilities and compliance vulnerabilities. So it's surfacing all of those things for our customers.
Cloud is something that comes up time and time again.
Always.
I mean, it seems to be the answer as opposed to part of the answer. Do you think that's the case? I mean, should we be as focused on cloud as we are?
I think we should, because cloud's the conversation, I think, David, that draws out the right solutions for many organizations, and certainly we've seen that for our customers. And it suggests that you've got an opportunity to move to something which is consumption based, which is a utility essentially. And there's lots of different ways in which that can be portrayed to a customer today. So it's the right conversation. Which hybrid version of it, which element of a distributed cloud proposition is right for a customer's or for a customer's particular set of applications differs by customer. And we've seen the vendors coming into that space. We've seen HPE, with their GreenLake proposition, consumption-based services, and that could be deployed on site, but very much managed and paid for in that same way. Our customers are on such differing stages of their cloud journey that the solution, varies for all of them. So I think what's really important is, if you're embarking on a public cloud migration, you've really got to assess and plan that migration, take best advantage of what the public cloud can deliver. And then if that's not right, what other solutions can you have in terms of consuming? and that extends right the way out, well beyond the infrastructure and that, but into the network as well. So you've really got to be prepared overall for that journey, and that's a big piece of work.
Well, look, it's been great to talk to you this morning. It's great to hear a little bit about OWorks as well, and I hope that continues to thrive.
Thank you.
But thank you for your time on this morning's episode.
Not at all. Thank you, David. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the CIO Water Cooler TV, please do take a look around the website. There is plenty more content.